Welcome to Inner Racing by Motorsport Mind. This is the audio version of my popular monthly free video series on mental skills in motorsport. I'm your host Greg, and I'm here to share with you practical insights and strategies to help you enhance your mental racing performance both on and off the track. So get ready as we dive deep and explore the mindset behind successful racing, and as we look at practical ways that you can sharpen your racing mental skills performance and gain a competitive edge when you go racing. Let's get started. There's been a couple of drivers and riders, 3 drivers or riders, that have all had an epiphany recently where they've realised that actually it doesn't matter how good they are on a sim or how much testing they do, how good their driving skills are, and it doesn't matter how fit they are. If they're not mentally in the right place, they do not get the best, they cannot apply their excellence in those other disciplines. If their head's not in the right place, they can't find the motivation to go and get fit if their head's not in the right place. They can't think clearly enough or not think to get into flow state to take advantage of the technical skills. So they've realised, and it's been quite a big thing, this realisation. And I was reading this book. I started reading this book 10 days ago, by Hazard Lee. This book here called The Art of Clear Thinking. And he is a test pilot and a fighter pilot, F-16s and F-35s. So it's a fantastic book, and I recommend that if it's the kind of thing you're interested in, you grab a copy. But really it's about how high performance in the cockpit, in his role as a test pilot and fighter pilot, is all about strategic thinking, critical thinking, planning. But the performance all comes from being in control and being calm. So calm is the foundation upon which performance is built. And when we think about performance, it is about strategic planning. It is about being able to enter flow state. It is about critical thinking and decision making. Every time you go round a corner, every time you turn the wheel of the bars, you're making a decision. And then that's when it comes into decision fatigue. And there's so many elements when we start to think about it in a structural way. It is the calmness and your ability to maintain control of the organism, your thoughts, emotions and behaviours, that allows you to do the other things. So I want us to start to think about as calm is key, but calm also is being in control. It's not being relaxed. I think you can be calm without being relaxed. And when we're relaxed, yes, we're probably calm, but we're also probably not in an optimum state of performance. So it's about being calm because we can make decisions when we're calm. We are confident when we're calm because we don't feel as under threat. And of course, when I'm not under threat, I'm not generating noise. So Hazard Lee's book, The Art of Clear Thinking, while it mainly applies to business decisions and the sort of lessons from high performance in the cockpit into the sort of boardroom, I want to look at some of the qualities of fighter pilots and test pilots and even astronauts, speaking about the right stuff, as we call it, Tom Wolfe's book, that also apply to you as a driver or a rider. So when we talk about high performance, yes, we're going to be talking about fighter pilots. Yes, we're going to be talking about astronauts. Yes, we're going to be talking about racing drivers and riders. But when we talk about high performance, it's somebody basically doing something at a given moment in time where they have to deliver, they have to perform at their very, very best. They have to put their skills and demonstrate their skills and put them into action on demand. And this is where, in my experience, I've worked with MMA fighters, golfers, tennis players, Olympic athletes, wrestlers, lawyers, firearms officers from the police, people from the military. So high performance just means I have to do something in a moment's time. I have to deliver now. And to do that, I have to have clear thinking. So positive qualities that mean that I have clear thinking, that I am switched on enough and I'm not just reacting, because when we react, it doesn't go well. So we all know I'm a big fan of process and routine because it's consistent, it's reliable, it is predictable. We don't fly by the seat of our pants. We don't wing it. We don't roll the dice, because when we roll the dice, when we wing it, we're not really in control. And there's always a chance that we'll start to react. Now, I'm not talking about reaction times. I'm talking about reacting. We start to get emotional about things. So let's look at some of these qualities of pilots and astronauts and see if you can recognize how it applies to drivers and riders too. So the first sort of quality that you have to have as a sort of fighter pilot, test pilot, and astronaut: mental agility, the ability to make quick decisions, to think clearly, to remember, to recall, to learn, to be aware, to take in information. Mental agility to be able to process what is happening to you and your environment at any given moment in time. In a plane, in a cockpit, in a dogfight, on the track, racing, overtaking, it's the same thing. Mental agility, the ability to use this amazing thing that you have to your advantage. When we're stressed, that's not online, and we just become an emotional reaction machine. To have mental agility, we have to be calm. Another thing that came out of the book was physical fitness. You know, fighter pilots and test pilots, the extreme pressures and G that are put on their body is extreme. They have to be physically fit to be able to endure that, just as a driver or rider does. You have to be able to. Doesn't matter if you've got the skills. If you're not fit, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that getting towards the end of the race. So your endurance really matters. And this is when we're starting to think about the 3 pillars of performance again. How does this fit in with mental skills? To get fit, I have to have the motivation and the focus to get fit, to get what I want to achieve. Second thing that comes into mentally is when we begin to become fatigued. When we experience physical fatigue, it starts to generate more mental noise. I was talking to somebody about this the other day to do with the diaphragm. When the diaphragm becomes fatigued, we get what's called perceived fatigue. We find ourselves struggling, but we're not sure why. And poof, up goes the noise then. We start to get fidgety, we start to get distracted because the organism's under load. So that physical fitness can really affect and impact our mental fitness as well. Next one, eye-hand coordination. If you're a test pilot or fighter pilot, you need to have good hand and eye coordination, as do racing drivers and riders. And of course, we've got reaction time tests. We do your BATAC lights and things like this, and your tennis balls. But remember, our reaction times and our ability to touch the lights or catch the tennis balls is dependent on our focus and our concentration. And our focus and our concentration is very much dependent on our calm. I might be able to touch lights in the right sequence very, very quickly in an ideal environment. But if I put you under pressure and ask you to do the same thing, are you going to be able to do it? So the ability to have these hard skills, these physical skills, really does come from being calm as well. And remember, when we become stressed, when the organism starts to react, we get these physiological things that happen to us, and we get this tunnel vision that can come in. And when we lose our peripheral vision, it kind of goes, our thinking goes offline first, then it's our vision. We start to get tunnel vision and target fixation, and then eventually we might actually stop hearing the engines of other bikes or cars beside us because I'm just so overwhelmed in my own world and I've got so much noise going on. So your eye and hand coordination, again, is reliant on being calm. The next one, my favourite, emotional control. If I'm not aware of how I'm behaving and my emotions and what I'm doing right now, my state, it's very difficult for me to intentionally change it. And emotional control comes from an awareness of my thoughts, emotions, and behaviours. And emotional control also comes from having a low bucket, from not being on a hair trigger, and it all comes from being calm. If I'm calm, I can choose the correct response. If I'm calm, I can apply certain tools, techniques, and strategies in order to manage the reactions that I'm having. But if I'm not calm, I'm not going to notice that, and then I'm just going to start reacting. I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get frustrated. I'm going to send it. I'm going to make wild, reckless moves that are poorly thought out, not well executed, and I'm undoing all of my hard work that I've spent training because I wasn't calm. I get back to the garage. I'm arguing with the team. I'm frustrated by my weekend. I don't reset in between each session. And so that emotional control continues to affect me throughout my race weekend. So developing calm going into your weekend, maintaining your calm throughout your performance and in between sessions will really allow you to get the best out of yourself across your race weekend as well. When we're emotional, we send it. When we're emotional, we make half moves. When we're emotional, we might get a little bit reckless. When we're emotional, we make mistakes. When we're emotional, we miss things. So we always have to be calm when we go racing, because other than that, I'm going to let my reactions and my state and my emotions undo all the good work that I've worked so hard for. Last one in the sort of positives, if you like, is this situational awareness. My goodness me, what a strong correlation between being a pilot, a fighter pilot, a test pilot, where you've got not just this incredibly complex machine that you're constantly monitoring and keeping in the air and flying straight and level where appropriate, but you're also on the lookout for what's going on, the threats, the dangers, the opponents, the people coming to attack you. And in racing, it's exactly the same. In racing, you've got a set of tasks that you have to perform. You know, you have to be hitting your entries, your apex, your exits. You've got a set sort of action that you have to be taking there. And at the same time, you're looking for the threat. You're looking for who's coming to attack me kind of thing. So we need this situational awareness. And as I just said about the emotional control, when we start to look at how not being calm and our noise kicking up and then starting to have physiological reactions and then drifting away from process and strategy and clear thinking, that's when we start to make poor decisions, because our situational awareness gets affected. Brain goes offline, vision goes offline, hearing goes offline. I just become so caught up in my mental noise and my internal dialogue and my emotions that I forget what I'm doing. I forget everything I know. And, you know, everybody's come off the track and going, I had no idea why I did that. Because we were reacting. We weren't calm at the time. We'd started to go into an emotional reaction. So it's interesting. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. We were talking about the fact that when you're racing, that's not the moment when you enjoy it. When you're racing, you're either in flow and you're fully focused and you're delivering your best performance. Generally speaking, you enjoy it. In hindsight, you go, I really enjoyed that afterwards. But you're not driving around going, this is amazing. Because if you were doing that, that's actually noise as well. So the enjoyment and the fun in racing is usually a post-session, post-weekend thing. While you're actually out there, yeah, it should be fun. Because you enjoy doing it, but it's not something we should be consciously aware of. But situational awareness will be affected depending on how high your load is. The lower your load, think about peripheral vision exercises. The lower your load, the more my peripheral vision is opened up because I'm not under threat. So situational awareness is key to be able to take in information, process it when I'm calm, and then actions that are appropriate to what's going on. So what's the negatives? Easy. Impulsivity, rash, poor decision making, not making the right move at the right time, half moves, sending it, deliberately punishing somebody else on track because you'll show them, you'll teach them a lesson. Invariably, it ends up in DNFs, penalties, or spins, and just it never really works. Second negative when it comes to fighter pilots, test pilots, is a difficulty in long-term planning, being able to project. Now, when we go racing, having a race plan, it's that Mike Tyson thing, isn't it? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And when we go racing, you can have a plan, but in the form of rehearsal. So you might have done 20 visualized race starts in your head. Not because you're trying to predict exactly what will happen, but because you're making yourself familiar with all the possibilities that might occur, all the different moving parts, all the different options, so that when something even close to that happens, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, right? You kind of know what to do. Same with long-term planning. If I'm not calm and I don't have clear thinking, I find it very difficult to set myself goals. I find it very difficult to visualize. I was talking to somebody yesterday about visualizing and why some people have real difficulty with it. It's because they're not calm. When I'm calm, I can actually use my critical thinking, my planning, my strategic planning to make better decisions about my weekend, my setup, my strategies, my performance, how I'm going to manage myself across a weekend, across a week, across a season even. My long-term planning is impacted by not being calm and having a high bucket. Next one is something actually, it crops up a lot during the off-season as well as the on-season. And that is a poor work-life balance. I.e., think about overtraining. Oh, I'm spending 23 hours a day on the sim, 23 hours at the gym. I'm not eating anything. I'm stressing about this. I'm watching onboard till 4 a.m. Overtraining is something that will just ramp up your noise, ramp up your bucket as the body gets fatigued. Remember, if you do HRV, as your load goes up in that sympathetic nervous system, part of your autonomic nervous system gets activated and your foot's on the gas. If you keep your foot on the gas, you eventually run out of fuel. And it is all about balance. There's a reason that athletes taper before they perform, because they need to have those extra reserves. So when we think about being calm, if I'm calm again, I'm going to make smart decisions and I'm going to be better at my long-term planning. I'm not going to be as impulsive. So I'm going to make better choices about my work-life balance. So my racing life. Think about it as my performance recovery balance. One of the things that comes up is the sort of inability to accept defeat. Sometimes people have a better package. Sometimes somebody is better prepared. Sometimes somebody has better skills at a given track or a given situation. Sometimes somebody can do something better than you. Sometimes it's just not your weekend. Sometimes there's a mechanical failure. When we're not calm, we will tend to react emotionally to these things rather than seeing them as what they are, and that is an integral part of racing. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. Sometimes we've got a great package, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we're victorious, sometimes we have to go away and work out how we can improve our performance. It is part of racing. And this ability to accept challenge, defeat, disappointment, but view it as an opportunity to go, okay, that's that. So why did that happen? And what do we need to do to improve our performance the next time, to increase our chances of success? Remember, your results are not up to you. That's also up to everybody else on track, the weather, your machine. Your responsibility is your performance. So when we meet challenge, it is not a thing to affect us emotionally, get us frustrated, angry. The thing about being motivated by anger and stuff like that is it tends to drop off quite quickly the further we get away from the pain point, rather than working towards something, which comes from having a calm, clear, strategic planning, long-term planning, thinking mindset. So when we meet challenge, it's part of the job, it's part of the process, and it should be approached calmly and in a structured way. How can we be better? And just the last one on this is teamwork. There's teams within teams within teams within teams, and we are reliant on everybody. And many of you will know I'm a big fan of building a bubble around yourself. You build your team within your team. You know everybody's name. You buy the donuts. You ask after everybody. You ooh and ah over baby pictures. You ooh and ah over people's dogs. You're asking after the partners, the kids. You create your own team in whatever team you're in, because it improves communications. When it comes to lack of teamwork and communications, we've got to think about, you always have to be the smartest person in the room. You recognize other people's buckets. You manage them that way. You communicate more effectively with them. Help them do their job better. And through that, we can build a team within a team that really works for us. And if you're successful, they're successful. So when we start to view it as all about us, yes, it is all about you, but it's about you and the team around you. If there's only one part in the garage and you're Mr. Grumpy, the other guy in the garage is going to get that part. Whereas If you've got the team within the team and there's only one part, or there's a limited number of people available to work on your car, you're going to get the preference. So build up that team around you. If we're stroppy, grumpy, and hard to work with, it doesn't sit well, and it's not actually good for our CV either. It doesn't do a lot of good for your stock value. The easier you are to work with, the better your communication, the higher your stock value, as well as your results. So just as an add-on to this, there was a great film called The Right Stuff, and a great book by Tom Wolfe about the selection for the Mercury missions in NASA. And again, it was called The Right Stuff because it was all these qualities we're talking about. So check out The Right Stuff, check out the book, check out the movie. It's a great movie too, classic. The astronauts have all the same qualities as well. So as a driver or a rider, you've got all these high performance qualities that you share with these people who are the best of the best. And the thing that underpins it all is calm. Because if I'm not calm, I'm not smart. If I'm not smart, I'm not going to perform well. And so next week, we're going to look at the components of calm and how you can improve those different components and how those components are all linked to your ability to be calm. Because it's like a Venn diagram where things overlap and things are added on, and it all builds together to create the best version of you. So that's next week, the components of calm. So any questions, any thoughts, anything about that, just let me know and I'll speak to you in the next video. Take care. Bye. And that wraps up another episode of Inner Racing by Motorsport Mind. I hope you found this month's topic valuable in your journey towards peak performance in your racing. To stay updated with the latest content, be sure to subscribe to the newsletter, download the app, and subscribe to the blog. Just visit motorsportmind.com or follow the links.